The deadlift is arguably one of the biggest lifts in strength pop culture right now. Tor and Eddie's battle for the 500 plus kilo deadlifts is the biggest strength news that we've had in recent years, and there's something just pretty damn cool about doing a conventional deadlift from the floor when it's perfect. It gets the people going. You could even say it's provocative. Now, the deadlift is a simple lift, certainly in comparison to a snatch or maybe even a back squat, but do not mistake that for it being an easy lift. Today we're going to go over the process by which we absolutely blow up people's deadlifts. It's, in our opinion, one of the more efficient ways of going about improving your deadlift because it's reliable and you can usually repeat it block after block. Now, there's other ways of doing it, but we find this the most productive and consistent manner. For example, here's one of our lifters, Jamie, deadlifting 330 kilos. Now, to understand the system for blowing up your deadlift in the Sika strength patent pending method, we need to understand what actually makes for a big deadlift so we can understand the system better. When we're deadlifting, we've got two main components that ensure a big pull. We've got the leg drive from the floor and the upper body strength to maintain this leg drive. Now, if you can consistently improve both of these, your leg drive and your back strength, and you pair that with good technique, you will be able to improve your deadlift 1 rep max block after block. Now, when it comes to improving the leg drive, of course we need good technique, otherwise it's going to be wasted, but we need to pair this with some smart assistance exercises. Now, in our system, the assistance exercise starts with the high bar back squat for powerlifters or anyone looking to improve their deadlift. Now, why specifically do we need the high bar back squat over other exercise, and how does this help us deadlift more weight? Now, you might mistake the deadlifts as being primarily a pull exercise, and we might initially think of this as a pull from the floor, but what would be more useful is if you think about this as much a push with the legs, certainly as far as to the knee joint. When we're pushing from the floor, this leg drive is happening through the lower body. Yes, of course, the upper back is pulling, but the quads and the hip extensors are and should be doing a lot of that work when you're pushing from the floor. When we're high bar back squatting, we're taking our lower body musculature through a very large range of motion. Now, on top of that, we're also able to incrementally, safely and consistently improve the amount of weight we're using, which also happens to be, hopefully, some pretty heavy weights. Now, yes, of course, we can use other assistance exercise, and we should do that, which we'll get to in a minute, but 80 kilo Bulgarian split squats when you're trying to deadlift 230 kilos aren't going to compare to the leg strength you're going to get when you can high bar back squat somewhere in the region of 180 to 200 kilos. The high bar back squat allows us to add weight consistently week after week, perform an exercise to a technique standard that we like, and then we can work and improve upon that, which is then in turn helping our leg drive from the floor. Now, an incredibly common question we get here is, guys, can I use the safety squat bar instead of the high bar squat? And the answer is we prefer not to, and this is for good reason. We find that the high bar squat edges out the safety squat bar in terms of gains from the deadlift from the floor. And the reason for this is that the upper body engagement and coordination you get is harder from the high bar squat, which is one of the reasons people don't want to do the high bar squat and would prefer the safety squat bar, is because when we are doing that high bar squat, this coordination between the upper body and the legs transfers better to the deadlift from the floor. Because of course, while we're pushing with our legs, we still need to maintain that upper body strength and position while we're driving from the floor and through into that lockout position. And you don't quite get the same return on your gains on the safety squat bar that you get from the high bar squat. Now, I'm not for a moment saying that you won't get transfer from the safety squat bar. For example, if you rep out 200 kilos on the safety squat bar and your deadlift's 240 kilos, you are going to get gains. But what I am saying is you're going to get slightly better and more reliable gains from the high bar back squat. Just because it's a little bit harder doesn't mean you need to shy away from it. With trial and error, you can improve that high bar squat. Now, programming the high bar back squat to help your deadlift is pretty simple. In essence, the main thing you need to be in consideration of is the fact that I want you to peak your high bar back squat a couple of weeks to maybe even a couple of months before you go for that heavy deadlift. The further out and the heavier that back squat gets in the high bar, generally the better transfer you'll see onto your deadlifts. Now, the weaker at deadlifting you are, the smaller this window between when you peak your high bar back squat and when you do your heavy deadlift will be. The stronger you are, the more lag time you'll see between both of these, because you need a little bit of time to transfer this new leg strength into the technique of the deadlift. And of course, because the deadlifts are heavier, that block is probably just going to be a small bit longer. Now, in combination with the high bar back squat or the safety squat bar, if you so choose, is I want you to pick a single leg exercise that you can progress pretty heavier. Now, in the same vein as we're looking at the high bar back squat being something that we consistently and reliably push to heavier weights in a manner where we can use good technique, I want you to find the single leg exercise that allows you to do the same. And for us, one of the absolute go-to this is the Bulgarian split squat. Now, personally, I hate this exercise, but it's undeniable the benefits that we see for people's deadlifts. The great part about the barbell behind the neck Bulgarian split squat is that we can get really heavy with these if we load them for long enough. For example, a 250 kilo conventional deadlifter might easily get up to 140 kilos for sets of 3 to 5 reps on each leg on the Bulgarian split squat. Now that might sound pretty heavy and a lot further than a lot of you have pushed your sling leg work, but if you do this in combination with that high bar squat, it will make a huge difference to your conventional deadlift. Other honorable mentions go to the front squat, reverse lunges, or the belt squat, but if we're looking for a maximum efficiency and effectiveness, the high bar back squat and the behind the neck Bulgarian split squats are fantastic. Now, if you need to improve your high bar back squat, check out the Sika Strength app at app.sikastrength.com. We've got several squatting programs on the app, but 2 of those are for the back squat. We've got the Road to Anywhere Part 1 and Part 2. These are infamous in their difficulty, but also in their productivity for adding weight to your back squat. I highly recommend you run both of these multiple times throughout the year and years, and you'll see some unbelievable gains on your squat strength. Now back to the video. So we've covered part 1 of the deadlift, which is big leg drive, and now we need to go part 2 of the system, which is big torso. Having a strong upper body is crucial to maintain your ability to use your legs as much as you can off the floor. And we're going to do this in a couple of simple ways. Now there's 3 areas I want you to hit hard and heavy and often. That's the upper back, the lower back, and the core. Now the beauty with this part of the system is you don't have to do a lot of variance. You don't need to do a lot of different exercises. In fact, I would actually encourage you to narrow down some of those assistance exercises that you're doing and push them pretty far month after month. We pick a couple for each one of these areas and go to town on them. Now, when it comes to the core, it's really hard to beat the classic weighted sit-up. And that's with good reason. Weighted sit-ups take our core through a pretty large range of motion. Ideally, you would do these on a GHD, and you can be damn sure that a 30 kilo weighted sit-up for a lot of people is going to be super productive. Once you get up into these higher end weights, we usually do this for a little bit more volume, and you're probably noticing a trend here is that when we're doing assistance exercise for the deadlift, generally we want to push these pretty far. Now, when it comes to the upper back work, you've got a plethora of options available to you. Now, one of my personal favorites and one of Sika Strength's personal favorites is 45-degree dumbbell seal rows. The isolation of this exercise is fantastic, and again, we can load these up pretty heavy. We can put on straps or heavier weights to ensure a grip isn't causing an issue, and from there we can push them week after week, month after month. Again, you don't need a huge amount of variance. You can just pick an exercise that you thoroughly enjoy. Maybe it's weighted chin-ups, maybe it's barbell rows, maybe it's a horizontal cable row in a machine. Whatever it is, make sure that you can load it up heavy, make sure that you can do it for a lot of volume, and then try and hit that consistency. The consistency is more important than the variance here because we want to progress that as far as we can get it. Now, when it comes to the lower back, we've basically got 2 different options available to us. The first option is the prone back extension, or a back extension that you would do on a 45-degree back extension machine or a GHD. The other option is the barbell good morning. Now, the barbell good morning has one key benefit that we get over the other style of back extension we might use, such as the GHD back extension or prone back extension, and that is the mobility benefits of the good morning. Now, something that's often overlooked, and we're probably as guilty of this as anybody else, is the fact that mobility in the deadlift can be quite useful. A lot of lifters have hamstrings, glutes, and a lower back that isn't very pliable and isn't able to maintain a very good position. One of the great ways of training this under load is the good morning. However, kind of paradoxically, this also presents a problem in its effectiveness, because if we're very tight, it's hard to do a good quality good morning. So what we need to do here is first ensure that if we're picking the good morning for our lower back exercise, we need to work up in terms of technique first and allow that mobility to increase, which will then transfer to the deadlift, and from there then we can start pushing it for weights. Now, let's look at a pretty cool deadlifting programming trick that we can use to push our deadlift while we're also trying to push these other exercises. So let's say that you feel that your leg drive is a big issue in the deadlift. You think and you've identified that the high bar back squat will be a big benefit to your deadlift, so you need to improve that. You don't really want to have to start doing your 10s and your 12s and your 8s on your high bar back squat at the same time as your deadlift. So what you can actually do is start your higher volume squatting, which we know to be incredibly useful, but at the same time, what I want you to do is start with high number of sets on the deadlift but low reps per set. So let's say we start at 70% of your best deadlift and we start at 10 by 2. Next week we go 10 by 3, then we might go 9 by 3, then 8 by 4, usually up until we end around somewhere or approximately 5 by 5 or 6 by 6. But the interesting thing that we do here is we don't change the weight. We're going to use essentially the same weight for the initial couple of weeks. This allows our high bar back squat to progress into that mid-range volume, and then what we hope will happen is ideally you'll end up with that mid-range volume on your high bar squat and and the mid-range volume on your deadlift. And from there, then you can start to push that mid-range volume on your deadlift at the same time as your high bar back squat, slowly then moving into those 3s and those 2s and those 1s. Simple, but incredibly effective, and certainly a little bit easier on your body and a little bit more enjoyable training sessions when you know you don't have to blast sets of 10 on the deadlift and the high bar back squat, which, to be fair, a lot of people do enjoy doing when they run the RTA squat program and the Sika pull, but it is undoubtedly a tough way of doing it. Okay, so let's recap. We want to have good quality technique. We want to push our assistance exercises in our upper and our lower body. The prime driver in our lower body is going to be a big bilateral movement like the high bar back squat. However, acceptable alternatives are something like the safety bar squat, the front squat, or maybe even the belt squat if you can load it up heavy enough and aggressively enough. Supplementing that then with a unilateral exercise that you can also load up in a safe and consistent manner, such as the barbell Bulgarian split squat. Moving on from there, then we're pushing the 3 main components of our upper body, our upper, lower, and core. And we're going to pick again, not a huge variance of assistance exercises, although you could, but for a lot of people, we're going to benefit from honing in on a couple of favorites and smashing these for months on end. Now, we're going to program this by pushing the assistance exercises a little bit more at the start of the program. We're going to push that volume on the high bar back squat or your heavy bilateral movement a little bit earlier, so there's a lag between the peak on your heavy leg movement and then the peak in your deadlift. After that, then we're going to ensure that good quality technique is adhered to throughout, and then adhere to the good principles of programming, and hey presto, you've got a bigger deadlift. Relatively straightforward. The problem here is doing the work. Now, if you don't know what to do, or you don't want to do it, or you need help while doing it, check out the Sika Strength app on iOS and Android. Now, a new feature has been added where we've decided that essentially AI, and we're adding in a coach chat. Now, a lot of the app users probably are watching this, and you'll know that it's been incredibly popular, where you simply directly message Dara, I, or Callum on the coach chat, which is Monday to Friday, manned throughout the week, and we're here to help you in any of the problems you encounter. And soon you will be able to send in videos for some feedback. Now, those features will be revealed at a later date, so check those out at app.sikastrength.com, and you'll be able to hopefully get technical feedback on your training, and you'll never be left wondering what you need to do, because we'll be there to help you and hold your hand, just not while you're deadlifting or squatting. Just get it, okay?